Welcome, curious listener. Today we're unwrapping something truly sweet and, well, pretty much universally beloved candies.
Hmm.
From the chocolate bar you grab at the checkout to maybe more exotic, chewy things from around the world.
Right.
The Global Candies Market isn't just about, like, a quick sugar hit. It's actually this fascinating reflection of culture, lifestyles, how things are changing.
That's absolutely right. We're diving into a study today. It's from Cognitive Market Research, and it explores the trends, the growth, basically, where this whole delightful industry is heading.
Okay.
And, some of the shifts we're seeing worldwide, they might actually surprise you.
Intriguing. So let's get some perspective first. How big are we talking?
Well, get this. The global market back in 2021 was valued at about $61.3 billion.
Wow, okay, 61 billion. That's already huge.
It is. And it's not slowing down much. It's projected to hit over 71 billion by 2025
Okay.
and then keep climbing up to nearly $96 billion by 2033.
96 billion.
Yeah. That works out to a pretty steady compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of almost 3.8%. Specifically from 2025 out to 2033.
So 3.8% growth year on year. That's solid.
It really is. And like you said, it's not just about selling more Snickers bars, right? It kind of signals this resilience in how people spend their money.
Yeah.
Even when the economy is doing weird things globally, people still want these, simple pleasures. What do you think that says about us?
That's a really good point. It feels like maybe candies are becoming less of a sometimes treat and more, I don't know, baked into our routines. Comfort, maybe? Convenience.
Could be, absolutely.
So, okay, nearly 96 billion by 2033 globally. What does this actually look like on the ground? Let's unpack this region by region, see who's contributing what.
Sounds good. Where should we start? North America.
Yeah, let's start there. The
Yeah.
familiar territory for many.
Okay, so North America, we'd call this a mature market, but it's still growing.
Mature but growing.
Exactly.
Right.
It pulled in nearly 17.7 billion back in 2021,
Right.
projected to hit over 20.4 billion by 2025. And then looking out to 2033, it's expected to reach over 26.4 billion.
Okay, so still significant growth there.
Yeah, the CAGR is about 3.25%, which, for a mature market is quite healthy. It suggests maybe less about getting new people to eat candy and more about innovation, premium stuff. Healthier options, maybe?
That makes sense. And the U.S. is the big player there, I assume.
Oh, absolutely dominant. The U.S. market was $14.5 billion, roughly, in 2021.
Wow.
And it's heading towards $21.3 billion, a bit over that, by 2033. That's a CAGR of just over 3%.
Okay, but hang on, looking at the numbers here, Canada seems to be growing a bit faster. Its TGR is nearly 4.3%.
That's a sharp catch. Yeah, Canada's showing stronger growth, from about $2.3 billion up to projected $3.7 billion by 2033.
Any thoughts on why? Like, is something specific happening in Canada? New trends taking off faster?
It's hard to say definitively from this data alone, but yeah, it often points to things like maybe changing demographics, different preferences coming in, or perhaps a faster uptake of, say, gourmet gummies or artisanal chocolates, things like that.
Interesting.
And Mexico's doing well, too. A healthy rise from about 850 million up to nearly 1.4 billion by 2033. That's a ADGR close to 4%.
So even in a mature region, there's still plenty of sweet evolution happening.
Definitely. Tastes keep changing.
Okay, let's cross the Atlantic. Europe. You mentioned innovation there too.
Right. Europe shows, I'd say, stability, but with that innovative edge. The whole market was nearly 11.6 billion in 2021.
Okay.
Expected to grow to over 17.1 billion by 2033. So the CAGR there is about 3.17%, pretty comparable to North America overall.
Got it. And within Europe, who are the big players?
Well, you've got the UK, started around 1.3 billion, projected to hit about 1.8 billion. Germany is actually the largest single market currently.
Oh.
Yeah, over 1.7 billion back in 21, set to reach nearly 2.44 billion. Its growth is a bit slower, though, around 2.5% CAGR.
Right.
Very established market, lots of brand loyalty.
Right, classic stuff.
Yeah.
But then look at France. It seems to be doing really well.
It does, doesn't it? France started around 1.6 billion, but it's projected to hit over 2.5 billion. The CGR there is almost 3.9%.
Yeah, that's noticeably higher for Western Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Any ideas what's driving France? More chocolate lovers?
Could be. France does have that strong artisan chocolate culture. Maybe candies are more integrated into like gifting or gourmet experiences. Elevated a bit.
Possible.
Italy's also growing nicely, hitting nearly 1.4 billion by 2033 with a 3.5% CAGR, Russia's a bit slower, around 2.5% CAGR.
Oh,
Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg, they're all growing, mostly steadily.
okay.
But here's something interesting again. The rest of Europe category. That showed the highest growth in the region.
Really?
Yeah, soaring from about 2.7 billion to over 4.5 billion by 2033. That's a CAGR of 4.6%.
Wow. So that suggests maybe Eastern Europe or other markets not specifically listed are really catching up.
That's often what it indicates, yes, a broadening base of consumption.
Okay, this is fascinating. We've got these like established giants ticking along, but then pockets of faster growth everywhere.
Exactly.
So let's move on to Asia Pacific. You hinted this is a big one.
Oh yeah. Asia Pacific is it's really a powerhouse, both in scale and innovation. It's growing rapidly. Market size was over 24.4 billion back in 2021.
24 billion. Already bigger than North America or Europe.
Significantly bigger, and forecasted to jump to almost 39.6 billion by 2033.
Huge.
That's a robust 4.2% CAGR overall for the region.
Okay, so who's leading the charge there? China.
China's definitely leading.
Yep.
Over 7.1 billion in 2021, expected to top 11.1 billion by 2033. That's about a 3.76% CAGR.
Still strong.
Very strong. Japan's close behind, growing from nearly 5 billion to over 7.7 billion. Again, massive markets, lots of people, rising incomes.
Right. But the airline called India a candy consumption powerhouse. What's the story there?
India's growth is really impressive. It started at nearly 3.5 billion in 2021,
Okay.
and it's projected to hit over 6 billion by 2033. The CAGR, almost 5%. 4.96 to be exact.
Wow, nearly 5%. That's a lot of candy. What's fueling that specifically in India?
Well, it's likely a mix of things. You've got a massive young population, a rapidly growing middle class with more spending power, plus maybe a unique blend where traditional Indian sweets meet Western-style candies. It creates a very dynamic market.
Makes sense.
South Korea is growing steadily, too, around 3% CAGR. Australia, a bit more modest, but look at Singapore.
Singapore.
Shines quite brightly for its size, starting under $1 billion, but projected to hit over 1.5 billion by 2033. That's a 4.76% CAGR. Very strong.
Interesting.
Southeast Asia as a whole is also growing fast, over 4.5% CAGR. Taiwan's a bit slower, closer to 3%.
Okay.
And guess what? The rest of APAC's category.
Let me guess. Highest growth rate again.
You got it. A significant jump here, leading the entire region with a CAGR of almost 6%, nearly 5.96.
Incredible. So the pattern holds. These rest of areas often represent the biggest percentage growth.
Exactly. Huge potential being unlocked across the continent.
All right, from Asia's boom, let's head to South America, described as an emerging sweet spot.
Emerging is a good word. The market there was about 4.2 billion in 2021.
Okay.
Expected to grow to over 7.18 billion by 2033. That's a strong CAGR overall, about 4.65%.
Solid grace. Brazil leads, I imagine?
Brazil's the biggest, yeah. Growing from about 1.3 billion to over 2.1 billion, a CAGR of about 4.3%.
Okay.
But check out Argentina.
Argentina, what's happening there?
It's flagged as a rising player, increasing from just under 600 million to over $1 billion by 2033. And its CAGR is the region's highest, over 5%, 5.16%.
Wow, Argentina's outpacing Brazil in growth rate. Any clues why?
Again, could be various factors, maybe changing demographics, youth population, better access to international brands perhaps, or maybe strong local candy makers doing well.
Yeah, it could be any of those.
Colombia, Peru, Chile, they're all showing growth too. And, no surprise now, the rest of South America.
Let me guess. Surging.
Surging indeed. From about 1.7 billion up to nearly 3 billion, a CAGR of exactly 5%.
There's that pattern again. These collective other markets are really driving a lot of the percentage gains.
Well, what it really highlights where the next wave of consumer growth might be concentrated.
Okay, two more regions. The Middle East. Seems like slower growth here.
Yeah, modest but steady is how I describe it. The market was about 2.3 billion in 2021, rising to over 3.16 billion by 2033. So the CAGR is lower here, around 2.4%.
Okay.
Saudi Arabia leads, growing from about 835 million towards 1.1 billion. The UAE actually shows a bit faster growth, nearly 3.5% CAGR.
Right.
Egypt, Qatar, the rest. They're contributing steadily. It's not the explosive growth we see elsewhere, but it's consistent demand.
Got it. And finally, Africa, the fastest growing frontier.
This is where things get really dramatic in terms of growth rate. Africa is, wow, it's emerging as the fastest growing candy market globally.
Wait, faster than Asia Pacific overall?
In terms of percentage growth, yes. It started smaller, of course, just under $1 billion in 2021, about 980 million.
Okay, relatively small start.
Right. But it's expected to hit over 1.2 billion by 2025 and then more than double to over 2.3 billion by 2033.
Doubling. What's the CAGR on that?
Get ready for this. 8.16%.
8%. That is seriously fast growth.
It's incredible. Nigeria, for example, grows impressively from around 196 million to over 450 million. South Africa is on a similar trajectory, reaching nearly 750 million by 2033.
Huge potential.
Absolutely huge. It really underscores this massive shift happening, the evolving consumer base across the continent.
And I'm almost afraid to ask, the rest of Africa?
You know it. They surge the most. The CAGR for the rest of Africa category is over 8.5%.
Wow.
Growing from about 458 million to over 1.1 billion by 2033.
That is just fascinating. A relatively small market now, but poised for absolutely explosive growth. What does that signal beyond just candy? Like for consumer markets in Africa generally?
It's a massive indicator. It points to rising disposable incomes, definitely, faster urbanization, better distribution, getting products onto shelves. Growth in a category like candy is often like a canary in the coal mine for broader consumer market development.
Right, a leading indicator.
Exactly. So when you put all these regional pieces together, it paints a really rich picture, doesn't it? Much more than just sales numbers.
It really does.
This whole deep dive, it shows the global candy market isn't just about, satisfying a sweet tooth. It's like holding up a mirror to different cultures, changing habits, shifting economies, all reflected in something as simple as candy.
Yeah, it's incredible seeing those contrasts laid out. You've got the mature, steady growth in North America and Europe, where maybe it's more about what kind of candy, premium, healthier, innovative. Then you jump to India, the consumption powerhouse, just based on sheer volume and growth. South America is this emerging sweet spot, finding its footing. And then Africa, just booming. The fastest growing frontier is absolutely the right term for it. It covers everything, right? Gummies, chocolates, hard candies, chewy stuff, all part of this global picture.
It truly is a global tapestry. And understanding these trends, well, it helps you, the listener, see how tastes are shifting globally, how different economies are developing, even how maybe cultural connections are made through something as basic as a piece of candy.
Yeah.
So if we sort of zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, it raises a really interesting question, I think.
How's that?
As lifestyles keep changing, as these new markets really come online, what deeper cultural shifts might the future of the candy market show us? Like, what new flavors or types of treats might become dominant globally? And what would that tell us about the world in, say, 2040? How tastes and demographics have changed?
That is definitely something to chew on. Wow. Okay, so next time you reach for that sweet treat, maybe pause for a second. You might just be holding a small piece of a really fascinating global story.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive today. Stay curious.
When you think about candy, it usually feels pretty simple, right? Just a colorful wrapper, a quick sugar hit.
Yeah, a little moment of pleasure.
Exactly. But what if I told you there's this whole universe swirling underneath? Complex markets, constant innovation, even cultural stuff. Today, we're going to peel back that wrapper, do a real deep dive into this industry. It's way more strategic than you might think.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do here. Go beyond just, how it tastes. We want to unpack what's really driving the global candies industry.
Okay.
It's a story about adapting, innovating all the time, and how candy connects culturally, like everywhere. You'll be surprised.
All right, let's get into it then. What's making the global candies market pop off like this right now? What's kicking off this sweet boom?
Well, it actually starts with something really basic, but easy to overlook.
Yeah?
Just how convenient candy is for eating on the go.
The impulse buy.
Totally. It's the ultimate impulse purchase. And it's not just that it's portable, it's how that simple thing has shaped everything. Packaging, where they put it in stores.
Checkout lanes.
Exactly. It's like a science. Brands have perfected those single-serve or mini packs. They're just perfect for a quick bite at work, travel, that little treat after lunch.
And the retailers are definitely in on it. You see it everywhere. Those displays right by the till, the bright packaging, limited editions.
Yep.
It feels very planned, grabbing your attention last minute. And it works, not just on kids, but younger adults too, looking for that quick fix.
Absolutely. Think vending machines, airports, corner stores.
Yeah.
They're packed. It's engineered for that spontaneous little indulgence.
Okay, so convenience is huge. What else?
Right. So beyond convenience, another really big driver is this explosion in different flavors and also the rise of premium candies.
Premium. Like fancy chocolate.
Yeah, partly. But it's more that today's consumers, especially Gen Z, millennials, they want unique tastes, something beyond the standard sweet stuff. They want an adventure, you know.
Okay, that's where it gets really interesting, I think. Because it's not just new flavors, is it? You mentioned it's like candy becoming a storytelling product. What does that actually look like?
Great question. So think spicy mango gummies popular in Asia, or maybe delicate lavender truffles in Europe.
Wow, lavender.
Yeah, or low-sugar caramels taking off in North America. And it's not random. Brands are really tailoring flavors to regions, like tamarind in Latin America, or green tea and yuzu in Japan.
So each bite tells a story.
Kind of. It can trigger nostalgia, maybe celebrate a culture, or just feel luxurious. It creates this emotional connection that's way beyond just sweet. It's an experience.
Right.
And that ties right into the growth in premium stuff, organic chocolate, craft sweets. People want quality, maybe healthier options, but also that unique experience.
And none of this cool innovation would reach us without the huge growth in organized retail and, of course, e-commerce.
Oh, absolutely.
Supermarkets, hypermarkets, convenience store chains popping up everywhere, especially in cities.
Oh.
That's put candy on shelves globally, right?
It's been a total game changer. And e-commerce. That's opened up completely new ways to sell. You can get curated gift boxes now, candy subscriptions.
Subscriptions for candy?
Yep. And special assortments for festivals, holidays, all just a click away. We see online sales just shoot up during, say, Diwali in India or Christmas in the US and Europe.
Because of the special packaging and bundles online.
Exactly. Perfect for gifts.
Yeah.
And it's not just holidays. Mobile apps, influencers, digital ads, they're really connecting with younger people, especially in places like Asia Pacific and South America, where online shopping and delivery have gotten so much better.
Okay, so lots of growth, lots of innovation, but it can't all be smooth sailing. There has to be a less sweet side, right? What are the big challenges, the headwinds?
Yeah, definitely. If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
one of the major restraints, no doubt, is the growing concern about health. Sugar reduction is a huge trend.
Right. People are much more aware now about obesity, diabetes, dental health. You see parents trying to limit how much candy their kids eat, and adults are looking for lower calorie snacks, more natural options.
That's it.
It really makes you ask, how are the big candy brands dealing with this? Are they adapting fast enough, or are they risking becoming, irrelevant?
That's the key question. And governments are adding pressure, too. Think about sugar taxes, like in the UK and Mexico.
Right, and clearer labels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mandated, clearer food labeling. So traditional brands, they're under massive pressure to reformulate, change their recipes, or diversify into healthier stuff. If they don't, they could really lose out. It challenges their whole identity.
And then there are the ingredients costs, always up and down, plus supply chain chaos.
Tell me about it.
Sugar, cocoa, gelatin, corn syrup. Prices swing wildly because of climate change, global demand shifts, trade rules.
All of the above. And remember packaging costs shooting up after the pandemic. Plus geopolitical stuff, messing with logistics. It's a constant headache.
Can you give an example?
Sure. A really clear one recently was the huge spike in cocoa prices, driven by droughts in West Africa.
Okay, that hits chocolate hard.
Absolutely. Big companies feel it, but it's even tougher for the smaller artisanal guys. They don't have the buying power or the financial cushion. So they face a nasty choice. Raise prices, which customers hate, or maybe cut corners on quality.
Which hurts their brand.
Exactly. It's a real tightrope.
And finally, the competition must be intense. The market seems so crowded.
Oh, it's incredibly fragmented. You've got the global giants, strong regional players, tons of local artisans, and now this growing wave of private labels, store brands.
So what does that mean for everyone trying to sell candy?
It means constant pressure on prices. And product life cycles, they seem to get shorter and shorter.
So you always need the next new thing.
Pretty much. Brands have to keep pouring money into innovation, marketing, keeping customers engaged, just to stand out. And those private labels, store brand gummies or chocolate bars, they offer something similar, often cheaper.
Making it even harder for established brands.
Definitely. Unique positioning and nonstop innovation aren't just nice-to-haves anymore. They're critical for survival. You've got to be pretty special just to get noticed.
But, okay, despite those challenges, and they are significant, the industry is adapting. This is where it gets really interesting again, seeing how they're reshaping things. Let's talk about functional and sugar-free candies.
Right, so consumers today, they often want more than just taste. They're looking for, like, added value.
Functional, you mean like vitamins?
Yeah, exactly. Think probiotic lozenges, mints fortified with vitamins, or sugar-free gums using natural sweeteners like stevia. It's kind of wellness meets indulgence.
And people are buying this stuff.
Definitely. They're popular with diabetics, wellness shoppers, but also parents looking for healthier options for kids. It taps right into that clean label, better for your trend.
So even the big old-school brands are adding these lines.
They pretty much have to. Expanding their portfolios beyond just the classic sugary stuff is becoming essential.
Okay, what else? Seasonal stuff.
Oh yeah, seasonal and gifting innovations are huge. Candy is tied to celebration everywhere, right? Halloween, Valentine's, Christmas, Easter, Diwali.
It's an emotional purchase.
Totally. And brands lean into that hard. Limited edition flavors just for the season, special packaging, personalized candy boxes.
I've seen those. And corporate gifting, too.
Yes, that's become a really big channel, especially for premium chocolates and gourmet candies. These seasonal pushes, they drive massive sales, sure, but they also strengthen that emotional tie between the brand and the consumer. It's more than just candy. It's like giving an experience.
That makes sense. And what about sustainability? That seems to be everywhere now.
It's massive in candy, too. It's a growing concern, especially for younger consumers, Gen Z, millennials. They really care where their stuff comes from.
So what are brands actually doing?
We're seeing real investment in things like biodegradable or recyclable packaging. That's a big one. Yeah. And a big push for fair trade certified cocoa, ensuring ethical labor standards. You see major players like Mars, Nestlé, launching these big public commitments, carbon-neutral production goals, stopping deforestation in their cocoa supply chains.
And that resonates with shoppers.
Absolutely. People are increasingly voting with their values, choosing brands that align with their ethics.
Okay, so who are the really big players we should know in this global game?
Well, the list includes giants like the Hershey Company, Ferrari Candy Co., Mars Incorporated, Mondelez International Inc., Demetz Candy Co., and Nestlé S.A., among others.
And it sounds like they're not just sitting still, they're constantly changing strategies.
Constantly, through innovation, buying up smaller companies, strategic partnerships, going digital. For instance, Hershey buying Lily Sweets. That wasn't just about getting bigger. It was specifically to grab a foothold in that fast-growing, low-sugar market.
Smart move.
Or look at Mars and their sustainable cocoa commitment. That's not just good PR. It builds real brand loyalty with consumers who care about ethics. It shows they're listening and, crucially, investing.
Wow. But yeah, like you said at the start, it's way more than just sugar and colorful wrappers.
There's more.
It's this incredibly dynamic story. Innovation, adapting to health trends, global logistics, culture. It's where, like, childhood memories meet hard-nosed business strategy and consumer psychology.
Exactly. So maybe think about this the next time you grab a candy bar or a bag of gummies. What's that wrapper really telling you? About global markets, changing values, that constant push for the next big thing.
And what's around the corner.
Right.
Oof-ish.
The surprising new functional candy or sustainable treat is waiting to completely change how you think about a sweet indulgence. It's always evolving.